Hello, thank you for joining us. I am here today. I'm really excited. Here today with Golden Gloves champion and now professional fighter with a 1-0 record, Leesh Pike. Leesh, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about this. You're our first member spotlight. Woo woo!
Cool.
So
Thank you.
Before we get started, I just want to make sure that we are in fact live. I do this. Oh, we are.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. It gets easier every time you do it. So, full disclosure, I did not prepare Leesh in any way. I didn't pre-prep her with questions. This is supposed to be kind of like a very spontaneous and impromptu conversation, not super scripted, because we want the real deal. We want the real deal. We want the real deal, Leesh Pike, and what she has to say. So Leesh, just quick backstory, had her first professional fight on October 29th?
Yes.
29th, which was amazing. So Leesh, why don't you just set it off with telling us what that felt like and what that meant for you.
Sure. So I've been boxing for a while now. Been in the boxing world probably 12, 13 years or so. Competing actively for a little over 4. And one of my big goals was to go pro. Because for me, it was, if I look back at my childhood self, this is not something I would have necessarily expected or dreamed of, or thought I would be doing. But really making my professional debut and then getting that win meant a lot to me, because I did it for myself, for my young self. Always being told that, picked on, or, being picked last in gym class, or made to feel like I couldn't do something, or wasn't good enough, wasn't fast enough, strong enough, tough enough. And, I wanted to prove to myself that I could, and show other people that, if you just work hard and push your limits, you can make amazing things happen. So it was quite an amazing moment, and I had a lot of people there to support me, and it felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
we were there.
Yeah.
Woo woo.
Yeah.
Team Leesh. Yeah. So you had mentioned about for your younger self. So my question to you is, when did you get the idea? When did it enter your consciousness that you're like, you know what I want to do? I want to fight. Because that's, I think, as women, right, that tends to be a little bit of an unusual path to empowerment.
Sure. Yeah. It is. And it's interesting, because I think sometimes when you think about the concept of boxing, people look at it as this brutal sport. And I suppose you can look at it that way, obviously. You're punching people in the face. But it's not about that, when I look at it, because when people meet me, I think you can even tell on here the way I present myself. I don't seem like a mean person or somebody that just is out there to go after people. So for me, when I started boxing originally, I was just taking classes, and I had no intention of fighting. But I live with clinical depression, and I'm very open about it. And I've been living with that since I was 12. And for me, it really helped me to deal with some of my demons. And so as I started taking the classes, then I started doing one-on-one sessions. And it made me feel really strong and empowered. And there's something about boxing, like the skill and the mental capacity that it takes, that I don't think about anything else when I'm boxing. I just think about boxing. So it kind of gives me this release when I do it. And that's, really what made me want to do it. It's like I'm literally, fighting my demons in there. Um, and like I said, I don't do it because I'm angry or I'm mean or I, want to just go beat people up or something. I do it because it's skilled and it's fun and exciting. I mean, in fact, some of my absolute best friends, we spar with each other, and just so people know what sparring is, it's like you're practicing. You're in a ring, you're hitting each other, and after we're done, we just talk to each other. So, I guess all in all, it's just really helping with my depression, bringing me joy. That's what made me want to get
Mhm.
into actually like getting in the ring and fighting.
That's great, that's
Yeah.
great. Now, do you remember the transition time when you went from it being a recreational fitness activity to, "You know what? I wanna do this for real." Do you remember, like, what that felt like, or do you remember that moment?
Yeah, so it's interesting. That's actually a really good question because originally, so I spoke about how long I've been in the boxing world and then how long I've been competing, which for anybody that just joined, maybe I said like 12, 13 years in the boxing world, training, practicing, and then actively competing like 4.5. So it's kind of like people might be wondering like what took so long. There was a time period where I like a couple years where I wasn't boxing. Um, and so before those couple years, I had thought about going in the ring. I had a fight lined up and it fell through, a couple of them. And then I got out of it because life happened. I got
Typical.
married, I moved, blah, blah, blah. And for me, I was actually drinking pretty heavily and having a lot of fun, um, right before I started to um, get back into boxing about 4.5 years ago, and I've been sober for that long. And something in my gut told me, like when I knew I needed to go sober, um, something said go back to boxing,
Mhm.
and I did, and it was like a mindset change because I'll tell you, if I had boxed, it would have been I was a completely different boxer fighter, before this transition, and something clicked in my mindset and I was like, I'm gonna get in that ring, I'm gonna fight, I want to fight in the golden gloves and I want to win. And that was really like it just kind of took off after that, and that's what made me do it because I was like, I want to prove to people that I can do great things, and not just people, more so myself. It's always been about me. I'm
Mhm.
just constantly trying to prove to myself, what can I do next, what more can I do, you know
Mhm.
so that's
Mhm.
how I got into it.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I like to think about, when we pursue goals, I like to call, audacious goals, right? Because as a woman wanting to fight, most of the population would view that as sort of an audacious goal. Like, "What do you mean?
Yeah.
You're a girl,
Yeah.
you shouldn't do that. What if you get punched in the face?" I'm sure you've heard it all, right?
Yeah.
So, the I believe that there's, an audacity that you need to have, like, in order to pursue I think a lot about this, the audacity to pursue something audacious. Like, there has to be this kinda, this maybe it's a little F you in you or something that just, like, inspires something so big that you're able to block all that noise out because it can be so, distracting, right? When
Sure.
it's or difficult to stay on the path. So do you find or do you feel or do you know of kind of what that might be for you, like that spark of audacity or that something that I know it's for you, but is there something bigger
Yeah.
than that? Like some sort of like, oh, that thing that like no matter what, I know it's worth it?
um that's interesting. I feel like for me it does come down to wanting to show the skills that I have, because it's for me, but it's also, you know, truly, and I'm sure that I will have people disagree with this, as much as everyone wants to be like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't know that that's
Bullshit.
necessarily true. And
That's bullshit.
I'm pretty sure we all care a little bit. You know what I mean? So for me, I do want to show other people what I can do. I just posted on my Instagram today, I used to kind of, I feel like, cater my Instagram to show that I was like tough and strong and serious and I box and whatnot. But I'm a goofball. I'm fun loving. I like to enjoy myself. I have fun in training. And for me, I don't hide that. And I'm just unapologetically myself. So I do want to show people that you can be that way and you can still have fun and, you know, do this sport. So I guess for me, it's just like um, showing the haters that I can,
Mhm.
that I can do it. Um,
I love
and
that.
just
Yeah.
achieving something great because, I mean, I'm a Gemini. I'm loud and I like attention, and ultimately, there aren't going to be, not everybody's going to like that. And there are going to be people that want to see you fail, see me fail, um, that'll laugh at me, that'll talk about me, and this is just to say, well, I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep doing it. I want to show myself what I can do, and you know what? I want to show them too. So it just keeps me going. And it keeps me in great shape, so that helps.
Mhm. Always a good thing.
Yeah.
So in the challenge, in the pursuit of this challenge and this goal, what were some of the stumbling blocks, or what were sort of the things that you were up against in terms of just, I think, just to back up quick, a lot of times people will look at these things, look at these achievements and say things like, I could never because I have this, have that, have these commitments, have these things. What were the things for you in your life that could have easily been your excuses or things that you allowed to let stand in your way? What were those things and how did you tackle them?
Sure. I think uh, the biggest thing is probably number one, myself. There's that self doubt. I'll never forget when I came back to boxing. I hadn't like sparred in 2 years, and it's not like the first day I came back to boxing, I sparred and went in the ring and just started doing. I started training a little bit again. But when I did get back in the ring and spar, I was pretty upset after my first session. I was like, what am I doing? I had just quit drinking. I was in a very vulnerable place. And I was like, can I do this? Like, I've never been the athletic kid, like, blah, blah, blah. I was doubting myself. And it's like, why? Like, I just have to keep working. And so I did. And there will be those times that creeps in. And I mean, I've had losses too on my record, and it's been hard to deal with those. But it is what it is. This boxing, there are wins, there are losses. There are people with perfect records, which is amazing. But it's all about how you deal with it. So I think definitely myself. Um, I think we can also. I know for me, I struggle because I'm 5'3", and I was like, what weight class am I going to be in? And I had this fear with the food and nutrition too. And then back in high school, I had an eating disorder, so I was like, oh, I don't want to fall back into any of that or whatnot. But I mean, it's part of what I do, and I was able to find a way to make sure that I can make my weight for boxing in a healthy way. So, I had to combat that. And then I think the other thing is just in terms of other struggles, just I don't know, those are really the biggest one. Then I just the outside world. People, I think most people wouldn't have expected me to be a boxer, but you just got to shut out the noise. And a lot of the times I
Mhm.
still have to do that because I'm also a nice person and I don't like controversy. So I get a lot of unsolicited opinions sometimes about things, and I have perfected the smile and nod. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's what I'd
Well, I
say.
just wanna point out something interesting for the folks that don't know you is that you're also a nutrition coach. So, I
Mm,
think that that's a really, interesting and, the way that we attack our personal growth, right? That we take something that we struggle with, right? And then we turn around and master it, in a
yeah.
healthy way and use it
Hmm.
for our own benefit and then be able to offer that, to others as well. I think that that's something that's worth noting. It's sort of
Thank you.
uh, a common thread I see a lot is that, we
Yeah,
take those things it's and I'm trying to think of the expression, but it's escaping me right now. But, turning your problems into some kind of benefit for not just yourself, but for someone else, that you're able to
yeah,
attack that, accomplish it, master it. And now all of a sudden, you're able to say, hey, now here's the thing that I do. And that you're able to bring that past experience of the relatability of like, yes, I had an eating disorder. Yes,
yeah,
and here's the healthy way to go about doing it.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Thank you.
So let's see next. What is one piece of advice that you would give to yourself when you were struggling and first starting out? Now knowing what you know, accomplishing what you've accomplished, if you could go back in time.
Um, ooh, I would say when I first started out, um, I think in particular, don't let don't let things get in the way. Prioritize your goals, because there are a lot of times people say, I wish time for that, whatever it might be, or I
Mhm.
wish I could do that, or I want to do this. Anything. Yes, we cannot do everything, but we can do the things we want and prioritize them. Just like we make it a point to, you know, shower every day and brush our teeth every day and go to work every day. Um, can we do that and box and play guitar and go to your kid's soccer game? And no, it's not possible to do all the things, but you prioritize the things you need and want to do. So I would tell myself to like stick with it, prioritize what you want to do, and um, believe in yourself, like have that mindset, because I truly mean this, because people look at me and say things like, uh, people will be like, oh, you're athletic or you're so fast or blah, blah, blah. And while that's nice, it's not without hard work. It's with a vast amount of hard work and self-discipline. Um, because that's the other thing. There are times where um, you can't always do certain things because you have to be disciplined. So I would just tell myself, be disciplined, make things a priority that you want to accomplish. Don't give up, believe in yourself, and put in 100%. They're truly, I know it's, said over and over again, but there is no replacement for hard work. There is none. Even if people have natural talent at something, I mean, yeah, maybe some people manage to succeed, but you still have to put in the work. So keep working, believe in yourself, stay disciplined, go get it, little leash.
Yeah. Put it on a t-shirt. Um,
Yeah.
what is your vision for yourself of success? What is
Whew.
it that you're looking for? And when you say, "Aha, this is it. This is what I was going for." What would that look like? Or are you
You
already
know,
there?
yeah, it's so funny you say that, because um, I actually had somebody comment on one of my reels that I did on Instagram the other day, asking about like how I did an amateur, and asking about, is there drama and pro fighting and blah 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 blah. And I answered it, and I actually really kind of thought about my answer, and I was like, for me, my vision of success, and I guess when it comes to, I'll talk about in terms of fighting too, specifically for this, and I can kind of bring it full circle. Um, I want to entertain people, the people that are watching. Um, like I always want to put on a really good show. Like I said, I'm a Gemini. I like to do that. I grew up, my first passion was music. I used to sing and play the guitar, fun fact. Um, and so I love to perform. So for me, if I can make people, have a good time when they're watching me, that is huge. The other thing is I want to make myself proud, um, and know that I, fought well. That's success to me. Um, and I want to have fun while I'm doing it. And that was my response. And I said, because and that's how long I intend to box too, because I don't necessarily, and this might be a weird thing to say because there are some people out there that are just like, I'm boxing and I'm not going to stop until I'm number one and blah, blah, blah. But truly for me, I want to just like let people, even if I'm just a local fighter forever, for a few years, just people come, they watch me, they are like, "Ah, I love watching Leesh. She's so great to watch. I have a great time. She's a nice person. We get to chat with her after." And if I can inspire other like young females, like the ones from Girl Boxing Club, the nonprofit I help organize, if I can give them some empowerment to keep doing this and then still have fun myself doing it, then I've reached success. And if it's not fun anymore, and if it's not, if I'm not doing all those things, then what's the point? It won't serve me anymore. So that's kind of my vision of success. And right now,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been successful, but I've had a lot of behind the scenes work that has gone into it. Because I will tell you, I will say it on here that right before I did go pro, there was a lot of again unsolicited feedback, and input on what I should do with my life. And to anybody wondering, you do what you want. You, by all means, take the feedback, swallow it, think about it if you want to. But you do what you do, because more than likely you've probably had whatever plan you've told people about recently in your mind for a while. So,
That's a great point.
that's my,
That's a great point that
yeah,
it's been in your mind, and sometimes people don't realize that this is something that's been
yeah,
cooking for a while. So we have a couple questions. I want to get back
sure,
to girl boxing, but I have a couple questions.
hmm,
Jessica has two questions. So,
sure.
question one. Well, I'll do this one first because this is a simpler answer. What's the difference between amateur and pro fighting? You could take that.
So the basic difference is amateur you wear headgear, pro you do not. Um, and then also interesting, I ended the amateurs with 3 minute rounds, and now I'm back to 2 minute rounds. So there's a difference in that. So it goes a little bit faster, but without the headgear, there is a little bit more. It slows down a little bit, like in terms of the pace. There's a little bit more thought, and intention, and that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to go pro, have more of that chess match, if you will.
Mhm.
Um,
And you get
so those are
paid.
the,
There's another difference.
yeah, and I get paid,
And you get
which is
paid,
nice because I
which
put a
is
lot of
nice when
work
you're putting all that
into
work
it.
in.
So yeah, yeah. So
Get
those
paid
are
for all your
the
hard
pretty
work.
much the differences, and it felt different. It was a different feeling, different style. But it's hard to pinpoint what I mean by that. It's kind of like had to be there to understand, kind of thing. But yeah.
Yep. So Jessica has another question. How does your performance style impact your fighting style?
What do we mean by like
How,
performance
Jess, what do
style?
you mean by performance style? Is she still with us? Let's see if she's still here.
Sure.
What does your performance?
Oh, she said
Coming.
coming. Okay.
Paging Jessica Robinson.
Yeah. I like the questions though.
Yeah, it's great having some people be able to come in. We had a couple
Yeah.
comments. Oh, Jessica said you were talking about your love of performing
Ah.
and entertaining before.
Okay. Um, so that's a good question. So my performance style, for me, I flip a switch um when I get into the ring. And what I mean by that, and I think um and you can say this, you can vouch for this, Steph, knowing me and seeing me fight is I'm always smiling and happy and this and that when I'm, outside the ring. But when I go to walk into that ring, I flip a switch and I'm focused on what is in front of me and just winning the fight with as much and putting in 100% effort with as much strategy and thought as I can. Um, I have a lot of output and I'm quick in there because it's fun and exciting. And that's just kind of my style. And I think because I'm a performer, that's just how I go in there. So I'm able to like make that switch and have that mindset. And then the other thing is I like to pump up the crowd. So, when they call my name, I give a wave once the fight's over, I put my hands up because and it's not in not in a cocky way or anything like that. It's truly just I want to pump people up. Who doesn't like to be at a sports event, cheering and yelling, getting pumped up by the athletes? So yeah.
I'm like, can the ground open and just swallow me and I can just disappear out
Yeah.
a tube?
No, but like for the fans and
The
stuff, like
awkward
getting
dance for
pumped
the
up.
pictures.
Yeah.
I don't even know how
But
to make a fist. I'm like,
yeah.
time to go.
Oh, most of the time my pictures are ridiculous, but whatever. My hair, they took a picture of me after my fight, and I was like, I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, well, I tried. So, yeah.
I like being the fun
No.
fan. She said,
Well,
yeah.
Jessica, you have to come to my next fight then. I'll let you know when it is.
Jessica, you would love it. And that's something that, since it's mostly an all girl crowd here, I think
Yeah.
that most women, when is it? So, well, I don't think you have anything on the books right now, right? Or do
Yeah,
you? Or can you not talk about
I'm
it yet?
no, that's okay. I'm just not sure yet. I actually might fight in December, but it's TBD. I'll keep everybody posted though for sure. If
Yeah.
not, it'll be hopefully January. So right after the holidays. It's just tough because sometimes there aren't a ton of like December shows with the holidays and stuff. But yeah, I'll keep you posted.
I think one of the things that struck me having the opportunity to introduce other women to, whether not necessarily as a participant but as a spectator to boxing, is that uh there's sort of this preconceived notion of boxing where it's like, oh, there's just going to be a bunch of animals there and they're just going to be crazy and mean and it's going to be scary. I remember very distinctly taking my mom to her first show probably 3 or 4 years ago. Well, no, it's got to be more than that. My God, way more than that. But I remember she said, I can't believe how nice everyone is. She was just shocked. Like she didn't expect it to draw a crowd of like nice people. She thought it was going to be like, a bunch of wild people. And it's really not. And I think that's a common misconception is that boxers, I think, are some of the most humble people you'll ever meet, and I think that
Yeah.
everyone, all of it, like there's a reason why we're doing it, right? There's a reason
Yeah.
why. And it's to prove something for, it's most of the time it's not, Jake Paul, you know, um,
Yeah.
there's something and maybe not, maybe he has his own reasons and his own demons.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for that. And I think that, so then when you meet those people, like you see, if for those of you that, um, haven't seen Leash fight. I mean, it's like the Tasmanian devil with boxing gloves. It's insane. She throws like a million punches around, right? It's just don't blink. It's just, so, when you see that, if you weren't, if you hadn't met her and you see her performance in the ring and then you see her after, it's like, oh, that was you. where it's, people are shocked. I mean, I think people say, oh my God, but you're so nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, can't you be both? But I think as women, we have a hard time holding both of those things at the same time. Like, you can be nice and be a badass in the ring. Like, you can be both of those things. We're not, I think that, I think the tides are changing, but we're not used to that. We're used to this sort of like, it's only one thing. So we have a couple more comments here. So Jessica said that she'd love to go to a fight. So we'll definitely be keeping everyone abreast in the group of what's coming up. And we have Melinda. Melinda, right? From Florida?
I do. Melinda, we were in Atlanta together. I am friends with Emily Jones. So I was with her there. I'm 34 though. Although the newspaper wrote me as 33 the other day by accident, so that's fine. So yeah, and it's interesting. I will say too, this is just kind of an aside for anyone. I mean, Melinda boxes and she's awesome. I've seen her crush it. Like, don't hesitate. I'm 34, but especially, like for women, some of the people that hold world titles right now are like 36, 38, like, and then even beyond that, that's like pro, talking about that. But then even in the amateur world, like, there's masters and fighters and like, Melinda, when I think about like our tournament when we were in Atlanta, it's like there were girls as young as 7. And then, it was like women in their 60s. And so it's like this huge range. It's like you can be any age you want to do that, and it's so fun. There was so much camaraderie down there. Even girls I fought, like I get along with them. Some of them are truly my closest friends. I mean, the girl that I had my first fight with is one of my good friends now, and she was in the front row of the fight, on the 29th. And then I got to talk a little bit with the woman that I fought too on the 29th after, and not everybody's going to be like that, unfortunately, in boxing, just like anywhere else. Like if you work with somebody, you're not, somebody may not still want to get along with you, or there might be something, but boxing is just kind of like anything else. It's, and I mean, the way I think about it too is, well, who else are you going to fight? You're lucky to have that person. Yeah, they're your opponent, they're your competition, but you're lucky to have them, because if you don't have competition, you can't do it. So there you go.
Great point. I want to get back real quick. Jessica had another question about glasses. That's a great question. How do you fight with glasses, contacts, no glasses, etc.? So
okay,
answer that.
So I'm lucky that my eyesight isn't too bad. So when I work out and box and stuff, I just don't wear my glasses. I only have to wear them for like reading, driving, looking at the computer. Otherwise, I'll get headaches, but it doesn't affect my boxing. With that said, I do have friends that wear contacts when they box. I have seen people's contacts come out when they're sparring before and stuff like that. So it can be a little tough, but yeah, you'd wear contacts if you needed something to see. Cause you wouldn't be able to wear glasses, but yeah, I just go nothing. I'd lose them if I took them off. So I just keep them on all the time unless I'm boxing.
Yeah. I know I had, cause I don't see well without my glasses.
Oh no. Yeah.
I mean, I got my first pair of glasses. I think I was 20. And the first thing the eye doctor asked me was if I drove. He's like, do you drive? And I was like, yeah. And he said, can you see? And I said, yeah. He's like, no, you can't. I was like, really? Who knew?
This is what the streets look like.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, the trees have leaves. I mean, I was like blown away.
Yeah.
I was like walking like Godzilla. The ground was like so close and so clear. I was like, this is a whole other experience. Who knew? But it's funny you say that about the contact lenses. I want to add something real quick. So because my astigmatism is very severe, I can't use traditional contact lenses. I have to use like the hard ones. I went to a specialist. I paid out of pocket. It was a whole thing, hundreds of dollars. And I take them out on their maiden voyage for a sparring session. Both of them got knocked out. Never wore them again. I was like, that was the end of that for me. Both of them got knocked out. And I was like, all right, I guess we're gonna go blind. We're gonna fight blind. So anyway, Jessica said I was in the 3rd grade when I got mine. Yeah, it's rough. I would love to not have vision issues. Just get the surgery. That would be marvelous. I didn't want to forget about this, Leesh. Could you want to tell everyone about your work with the girl boxing organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Girl Boxing Club was started a couple of years ago by a woman named Stephanie Valeros, and Tessa Herbold. It started out of In Your Corner Boxing in Walcott, Connecticut. That's the gym that Stephanie owns. And has since expanded to a couple places, and I'll elaborate on that. But basically, what Girl Boxing Club does is we work with female youth from ages 3 to 16. It's a monthly, and in some locations, twice a month class. That's an hour long. It is a free session for those females to come together and learn boxing and have fun doing it. So I got involved about a year ago. I think it's been like a year. And because they also run into Hopkinton at Resilience Fitness. It's a CrossFit place, but they let us do the boxing thing in there. So I run it out of the Way, which is in Woburn. It's the boxing gym I train out of. And so I run it month to month. And what we do is like the girls come in. If they have wraps or gloves, they can bring them in. Otherwise, we provide them. We teach them like the basics about boxing. There's no contact right now. There's just, hitting the bags and hitting focus mitts, which are things that the coaches hold. And they have such fun. Like we just run around and they get exercise, and they are meant to just feel so empowered with other females around them. Our goal, because we're still so young, is we do want to be able to sponsor female boxers as time goes on, pay for their equipment, their fees, if they, have fees to get into any sort of a tournament, their outfits, their training, so that's our goal, so that we can help more female fighters, get through any roadblocks or barriers that they have. And we are open to suggestions. So if there are young females that that would need that support, you can feel free to send them my way, because we would love to try and sponsor some girls as time goes on. We'd love to help more girls get in the ring, but we're still young and just kind of doing the classes right now, and going from there. So
I'm going to have you do a full rundown of your socials before we wrap it up. But what would be the easiest way for people to get in touch with you if they specifically wanted to get in touch with you for the girl boxing program?
Probably. I'm like, I know it's bad, but I'm like one of those people where my phone's pretty much like. So really. Just attached. Really, anyway, like it's right. Probably like you probably like email is best, because that's kind of just quick and easy, in case people don't have Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I mean, if you're watching this, you obviously must have Facebook. But yeah, so probably email. If you want to get in touch with me about it, that might be the best way. And that's just leeshpike@gmail.com. So LeeshPike@gmail.com.
That's great. Thank you. And we'll do a full rundown and
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that anyone wants to get in touch with you about the girl boxing program or about your nutrition coaching. Now, I know that for a while you were running a personal training facility out of your home with your wife, and you have closed that down 100%, or are you still doing it sporadically, or what's the
No,
status
so
on that?
it's interesting. So I do more personal training than I do nutrition coaching.
Mhm.
So it's interesting when COVID happened, and again, this is a topic for another day, but pivoting your talking about pivoting your business through time and
Mhm.
turbulence, I guess. There's the talk cover. We'll change the title. That was terrible. But we did start as a sort of fitness studio. And I do still train like small groups, maximum of like 3. Um, but I mostly do like one-on-one, a couple two-on-ones. And so my wife and we got in and renovated our garage. Took out a loan and everything to build that out because we decided we wanted to run training on our own. And it was quite a hustle to get everything where it is now. But I do run my business full time out of there. It's a 900 square foot fitness studio. And you'd have no idea. It's like watching that show Amazing Interiors. You see this little white house, and then you open the door, and you're like, there is a full size gym facility in here. Um, so, so I still do that. So I do a lot of personal training. I have some virtual clients as well. So I do that. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm work full time as a trainer. I do nutrition coaching and then professional boxing now. Busy, but I love it.
Adding it all to your list of accomplishments. I love it.
Thanks. Oh, I lost your sound. Mm-mm.
How about now?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
I don't know what just happened there. A little
Technology.
tech difficulties here. Let's see. Why don't you fill us in on what your day looks like?
Sure. Just like a typical day, what I do.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
as opposed to just when you're a regular day versus a regular day when you're training for a fight. What is that? What's the
sure,
difference between those two?
sure. Um, so a regular day for me, my schedule is kind of crazy because the way that I make my training, but I do mostly train. I'll train like clients in the morning. Starting at like 6 a.m. generally, and then I usually have a chunk of time in the afternoon where I have my training. Whether I'm going somewhere to the way or I do some training also at Everybody Fights Rock in Salem, New Hampshire. I also spar at TMX Boxing in Quincy often as well, or the Everybody Fights in the Seaport District. So, there's a chunk of time my day where I'll do that. I'll have my training, and then I train more clients in the evening usually. But my days during the week are a little bit different. And then I do not take any clients on the weekends. I stopped doing that for myself because I wanted time for that I wanted more time for myself, for my wife and dogs. And I usually try and take, one rest day off a week, generally speaking. When I'm at camp, the biggest difference, and when I say camp, I mean, it's usually like, 6-week period leading up to a fight, 6 to 8 week period leading up to a fight. It's just more restricted with food because I'm very, with being a nutrition coach, I'm very much in tuned with what my nutrition will do to help enhance my performance. So I'm very strict when it comes to actually being in camp. Um, a little bit different outside of camp. And then I spar a lot more. So I generally spar. about 3 times a week when I'm in training camp. And my training goes up a little bit more. I'll train, like a couple times a day for boxing. Whereas I might train twice a day sometimes, because I like it. Otherwise, it's, at least once a day still, and then still taking that rest day because, it's interesting. Stephen King said, uh, writing is the easy part, rest is the hard part, and I definitely know that life because the resting is the hard part for me. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's general day in the life.
Now, when in terms of um, training and
Mm,
your training schedule, as you do this, I'm just going to screen share and show folks a couple of photos from your fight. But do you
sure.
want to tell us like what you kind of gave us the broad strokes? Like, what does that look like? Like, I get up at whatever, and then I eat this, and I exercise like this, and I do X amount of time at the gym. Can you break it down a little bit further for people that kind of want to get a better handle on like what really goes into this?
Yeah. All right. So if I give you that example, what I would say is, um, I would generally get up. Let's look at like, I just have to like look at an actual day. It's funny. If I think about like a Wednesday, for example, um, I start training clients at 6. So I would generally train my clients at 6. Oh, that's my mom. Um,
Mm.
and then for me, breakfast would usually happen like kind of in a 15-minute period between sessions, um, at like 8 or 9. And then I would go down to Quincy to spar after my last session ends, which would be 11. So I drive down to Quincy. I live in Salisbury, Mass, in case people were wondering. Um, so it's like a little over an hour. So I'd go to Quincy, spar, get in like, maybe 6 to 8 rounds. I'd do bag work and training there for, another extra hour. So I'm training, sparring for like 2 hours in total. Eat lunch in my car on my way back. I get back to training clients. I from like 4 to 7. I have dinner like in like a quick break, probably at like between like my 5 and 6 client or 6 and 7 client. And then after that, around 8ish, I would usually do more like cardio type of work, like steady state cardio. And then I would take an Epsom salt bath to help with my recovery. So hot Epsom salt bath. Um, and then always drinking a little over a gallon of water a day. So that's what like a day in camp would look like. So pretty busy, but I love being a busy person. So yeah, that's kind of a general day. And I always without fail watch something before I go to bed though, because I have to relax before I go to bed. So I watch at least a half an hour of usually honestly nothing that has anything to do with boxing. It's usually trash television or something because I have to get my mind off, uh, my mind calmed down in order to actually go to bed. So yeah, that's a day in the life during camp. Lots and lots of work, but I love it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think that's really helpful to see, so or people can hear really what goes into it.
Yeah.
The dedication, the amount of time it takes. That it's and it's not you're not just doing this for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It is a grind, and that is not even counting the stuff that you're doing in between fights, right? To maintain your levels of fitness and stay sharp and all of
Yeah.
that. So I think that it's worth noting. I think boxing is, not all sports are, but I think boxing in particular is particularly brutal in terms of, being able to schedule to schedule your life, or you don't really have one, right? To have to be able
Yeah.
to, you know, I mean, it
Yes.
becomes
Yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Would you say that's
you know,
fair?
busy, and I and I try to you know, I try to balance out my time to make sure that I also, you know, give time and attention to, you know, my wife and my family. But you know, there's also, you also have to have a supportive network around you of family and friends that understand how busy you are and what your goals are. I think that's in general speaking. I have had to, I'm just going to say it flat out this way, cut people out of my life that are just mm, energy suckers. They expect too
Mhm.
much of your time and energy, and they put you down more than they lift you up. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, um, because you gotta focus on yourself and what's best for you. Um, so I don't mean that in a bad way or a mean way, like, oh, I kicked this person out of my life. But you know, if somebody doesn't understand, like, I can't pay attention to them 100% of the time, I'm busy and I'm doing things. And you know, like my best friend, for example, will go a little while without talking. She's a busy mom, that works full time. You know, we've been best friends since preschool, and I'm a busy not mom, boxer, you know, doing things, and both doing things in our lives, but we, you know, connect when we can and stay in touch. And yeah, so you got to surround yourself with the right people too.
I think that's an interesting point that you made about, the cutting the people out in order to support what you're trying to do, and that's, essentially a form of boundaries. It's not often talked about. It's, when people say boundaries, they're like, I'm not going to put up with that. I need to set a boundary. And I think, more realistically, or a healthier way of looking at it is saying, like, I need to create the space for me to do my thing. And what goes inside that space are all the things that are aligned with the goal, and the things, and the boundary is,
Mm,
are these things aligned with my goal? Yes or no? And the yes things can stay inside the circle, and the no things, have to go. And they might be able to be revisited sometime. It can be flexible in that, if you may know that, this particular person tends to be, and I don't know, just, we all have different people in our lives that, they might be like a very Debbie Downer kind of person. And you're like, when you're in
yeah,
training and you're exhausted, you don't need that energy, and that you maybe have to
yeah,
create some distance between
yeah,
yourself and that person. And then, maybe lower that boundary a little bit, or ease up on that boundary when you're maybe not in training for a fight, where you have the time and the emotional energy to spend, that it doesn't have to be
yes,
so rigid. But that's where I think that the idea of camp, for a fighter, becomes a
yeah,
really interesting container that you can sort of take that concept and apply it across your life. If you're viewing your life as camp, like, I
yeah,
need to, I want to lose weight, or I want to fight, or I want to, take this class, or I want to learn this skill, you can create your own quote unquote camp, and
yep,
create that container, create that those boundaries between things that align with the goal, and everything else goes. And it's a way to, I
yeah,
think, keep yourself very on point and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then it gets all that middle ground, that gray. I'm like, I don't really know what to do. It's like, no, it's camp. I'm in
yeah,
camp.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm in training
yeah.
camp. I need to stay, keep my mind right. I need to keep my activities right. I need to keep my energy right. And the things that support that stay, and the things that don't, have got to go. Maybe
I love that.
temporarily or maybe permanently.
Yeah, I love that.
Jessica had another question. She wants to know, do you work with a coach or a trainer yourself?
Yeah, I do. So my head coach, my main coach is Brandon Montella. He owns the Way, and in Woburn. He's was the person that I originally took my first fitness boxing class with. So he's been with me the whole ride. He's like a brother to me. He coaches me for boxing. I do a lot of work too with Everybody Fights in Salem, New Hampshire as well. I used to work with Gene Lawrence, but he doesn't do that anymore. Really. So, but I do miss Gene's coaching. Um, so yeah, so those are the folks I work with. They help me with boxing and my conditioning because I think no matter who you are, what profession you do, if you think you know everything, you don't. And it's always good to have others to help you and make you better. So yeah, so those are the folks that my trainers that I work with.
That the expression iron sharpens iron, right?
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, about how, the stable of fighters that you're kind of with, and who you're training with and who's around and your sparring partners, and how all of that comes together to help propel you forward? How that, it's almost like a community within a community.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because some gyms have a lot of fighters in a one community, but I laugh because there are a couple of gyms I go to. I call myself the gym cousin, because like I don't fight out of Everybody Fights Rock in Salem, but I do train with them, and it's interesting. I'm sure people have their own opinions about having two gyms, but so far so good for me. Again, another thing, I'm gonna do what seems to be working for me. So, I don't really have anybody else on my team at the way. I've my friend Julian Baptiste. He's another professional boxer fighting Thanksgiving Eve actually, and but I wanted more of a network and a group to be part of. So I do spar a lot, and uh, I have no problem traveling to go spar. So I have a lot of different sparring partners that I'll work with. I'll just name like a few places too that I'll go to. One thinking, I do go to Rhode Island sometimes to On the Ropes, which is in Warwick. Awesome boxing gym. And Jamie Clampett, who, look her up if you don't know her. Amazing, like world champion boxer, like just incredible boxer / human. She's been extremely helpful in this path and guiding me in professional boxing. And then I'll go to TMX Boxing a lot in Quincy. Sarah McDonough owns that with her father. Her and I will spar. And then a lot of the girls from like Boston Boxing will come in. Some other girls from Rhode Island, my friend Vicky, Tess from Everybody Fights Rock. And then sometimes we'll get together at like Everybody Fights Seaport in Boston. It's kind of like you're a constant network, just connecting with these girls. Like we'll text or we'll send Facebook messages or Instagram messages and see, we all support each other, because it's like, all right, who's got a fight coming up? What do you need? Like, when can we get together? Because that's kind of how it has to be done. Sometimes for, guys, not like guys, there are a lot more males that fight. So it's a little bit easier sometimes to make those connections. But yeah, as females, we just kind of connect and reach out to each other, and try and have our coaches come. And I can't tell you, I've met some of the kindest, most fun, wonderful people, women, that I know in this sport, and they're some of just my bestest friends. And we spar together, we support each other, we lift each other up, and it's just awesome. It's a great network of people.
Awesome. That's great. Well, before we wrap up, do you want to give folks a little rundown of your socials? Quick rundown of like
Sure, that sounds good.
on Instagram and all the places.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, you can follow me. I am Leesh_Pike. I'm like, let me make sure I say everything correctly, because it's got all the underscores and this and that. So it's LEESH_PIKE, Leesh_Pike. And then if you look me up on Facebook, I am Leesh Pike, boxer, trainer, and nutrition coach. And then email, I had said earlier, leeshpike@gmail.com. So, but yeah, give me a follow if you can on Instagram and Facebook, and or but both if you have both. And feel free to reach to me if you have any more questions or need anything, as it relates to boxing or training. I'm happy to chat with anyone. If there's one thing I can do well other than boxing, it's talk.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us, Leesh. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And guys, definitely make sure you check her out. Follow her. Women fighters need support. Does not come easy as a female fighter. It is an uphill battle 100% of the way. So anything you can do to show her some love, support, do it. Like her, follow her, share this with your friends, because this is something, really important, I think, that, people are doing when you're willing to, put yourself on the line and fight your demons and fight your battles and go out there and, buck the trends of, women can't fight and push against that tide. It's really so important, and especially the work you're doing with the Girl Boxing Organization as well. Great work. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and catch us next time for our next guest. Thank you so much.
Bye.